Today, we're diving into a conflict that did more than just change a map. It literally built the Russia we know today, and, well, the man who's been running it for decades. So, that quote, it wasn't just some tough talk. No, that was a mission statement. It's raw, it's brutal, and it's totally uncompromising. And this, right here, was the moment this basically unknown guy stepped onto the world stage and made a promise. Russia's humiliation ends now, and he'd do whatever it took. And you really can't overstate how bad things were back then. I mean, the Soviet Union? Gone. The economy? An absolute wreck. And the army had just suffered this incredible defeat in the First Chechen War. Think about that. A superpower humbled by a tiny republic of determined fighters. So that's the big question we're digging into here. How did this one war turn a pretty obscure ex-KGB agent into Russia's Iron Man? Because this wasn't just about land. This was the war that forged a whole new identity for Russia and, yeah, shot Vladimir Putin straight from the shadows right into the president's chair. All right, so to really get how the Second War was such a victory, you first have to understand just how crushing the first one was. The story of Putin's Russia, it doesn't start with a win. Nope. It starts with a total, catastrophic failure. Okay, so let's rewind a bit. It all kicks off in '91. The Soviet Union collapses, and Chechnya says, we're out. We're independent. Fast forward 3 years, and President Yeltsin sends in the tanks, thinking this will be a quick, easy win. Well, he was wrong. It turned into this brutal 2-year nightmare. The Russians do manage to take the capital, Grozny, but then, in a pretty stunning turn of events, the Chechen fighters retake it in '96. Russia is forced to sign a peace deal and just leave. Total humiliation. So how on earth did they pull it off? Well, it really came down to two things: tactics and heart. The Chechens were absolute masters of guerrilla warfare. They knew every single street, every mountain path. They were just picking off Russian tank columns. And the Russian soldiers, they were mostly young, poorly trained conscripts who had zero motivation to be there. And then, to top it all off, the Chechens started launching these bold attacks deep inside Russia. That's when the humiliation became absolute. So there's a peace deal, but it wasn't really peace. What followed was just more chaos, this lawless period that created the perfect storm, a vacuum just waiting for a new, strong leader to step in. Just look at the situation. You've got Chechnya, which is technically independent, but really it's just a failed state. It's run by rival warlords, there's this growing jihadist influence, and kidnapping is basically a booming business. And then you look at Russia, and it's almost a mirror image of that chaos. The economy is in free fall, and you've got a very weak, very shaky Boris Yeltsin in charge. And then, things really explode. First, Chechen-based militants invade the neighboring Republic of Dagestan, declaring a holy war. Then, something truly horrifying happens. A series of apartment buildings across Russia are bombed, killing hundreds of innocent people in their sleep. Russia points the finger directly at Chechen terrorists, and suddenly, the Russian people are demanding action. They want revenge. So, right in the middle of all this fear and anger, a very sick President Yeltsin makes a crucial decision. He knows he needs a successor, someone strong, someone loyal. And he picks a guy not many people have heard of, the head of the FSB, which is what the KGB became. That man, of course, was Vladimir Putin. And right away, the whole narrative changes. Putin makes it crystal clear. This is not going to be a repeat of the First War. This isn't an invasion. Oh, no. This is a counter-terrorist operation. This is a fight for the survival of Russia itself. And the scale? Just wow. 90,000 Russian troops swarm into Chechnya. This wasn't some hesitant, poorly planned mission like the first time. This was a full-on invasion. And it was designed to do one thing and one thing only: win. Decisively. Their strategy this time was just cold, methodical, and incredibly brutal. Step 1, use satellites and planes to find the rebels. Step 2, send in the special forces to confirm the targets. And Step 3, unleash hell from the sky with a massive, coordinated bombing campaign. It was an efficient and absolutely devastating plan. But maybe the biggest change wasn't what was happening on the ground, but what was happening on TV screens back in Russia. See, in the First War, the media showed all the ugly details, all the Russian casualties, and that turned the public against it. This time, Putin wasn't having it. He locked down the media. The state-controlled channels pumped out a single, simple story. Russia is winning, and it's all thanks to the strong leadership of Vladimir Putin.
And this is where it all comes together. The war in Chechnya and the politics in Moscow become basically the same thing. You cannot separate Putin's rise to power from the success of this war.
I mean, just look at how fast this happens. It's kind of breathtaking. August 99, he becomes prime minister. October, the war starts. By December, as the army is rolling through Chechnya, Yeltsin steps down and boom, Putin is now acting president. Just 3 months later, he rides that huge wave of wartime popularity and gets elected president for real. From a relative nobody to the most powerful man in Russia in, 7 months? It's just an insane consolidation of power. And the story he told was exactly what people wanted to hear. He framed this whole thing not as some foreign adventure, but as a fight to keep Russia from completely falling apart. For people who were just desperate for some kind of order, or порядок, as they say, after a decade of pure chaos, he wasn't just another politician. He was the guy saving the country. At the end of the day, the war gave the Russian people the one thing they wanted more than anything else after the 90s: a win, a clear, decisive victory. And by delivering that, it cemented Putin's image forever as the strongman, the guy who brought back Russia's pride and strength, the ultimate protector. But the story doesn't end there. The legacy of this war goes way beyond Chechnya. Because the way Putin won that war, that ruthless, systematic approach, that became the blueprint for how he would run all of Russia. This is how we get the weird power structure that's still there today. Putin finds a powerful Chechen commander, Akhmat Kadyrov, who had actually fought against Russia in the First War, and he gets him to switch sides. The deal was, well, it was brutally simple. Moscow gives you tons of money and looks the other way, and in return, the Kadyrov clan delivers total loyalty and keeps the peace no matter what it takes. And after Akhmat was assassinated, his son Ramzan took over, and that alliance got even tighter. And this is the real legacy. You can literally see how the tactics they perfected in Chechnya just got scaled up and applied to the whole country. Controlling the media during the war, that becomes total state control of TV. Crushing armed rebels, that becomes crushing any and all political opposition. Centralizing power to win the war, that power just stays centralized in the Kremlin. You know, Chechnya was basically the test kitchen for building Putin's Russia. Then came a stroke of pure geopolitical genius. After 9/11, when the US declares its war on terror, Putin jumps on it. He brilliantly rebrands his brutal war in Chechnya as just another front in that same global fight. And all of a sudden, it's not a human rights disaster anymore. It's counterterrorism. And just like that, poof, most of the criticism from the West just disappears. I mean, look at Grozny today. It's all gleaming skyscrapers and shiny new mosques. The city has been completely rebuilt from the rubble. But what you're really seeing is a monument to a very complicated peace. A peace bought and paid for with Russian money and enforced with the iron, often brutal fist of the Kadyrov family. And that really brings us to the final big question, doesn't it? The war absolutely saved Russia from collapse. It delivered the stability everyone was begging for, and it gave them the strong leader who's been in charge ever since. But when you look at how it was done, the methods they used, the kind of system it created, you just have to wonder, what was the real price of it all?